The fact of the matter is they're doing this to absolute truth. This is something that the world needs to know about. And what do we know about someone who does this to absolute truth? Well, absolute truth is more or less synonymous with God. Okay, it's more or less synonymous with reality itself. So when they do this to absolute truth, they are showing themselves to be enemies of God who are trying to create a false reality, who are denying the reality that actually exists and trying to create a false one instead. So that's what we're up against here. We're up against some real bad actors, and this is what they're trying to do. They want a world all their own. They want to be totally dominant in that world, and they want everybody else to be some kind of slave, all right, some kind of servant, perhaps a robot with a chip inside them, so they can be controlled remotely. This is what kind of people you're dealing with. It's obvious. You hear Klaus Schwab talk. You hear this Yuval Harari, his pet philosopher, talk with his transhumanist nonsense. This is what they want. They want little remote-controlled golems, that they can actually do all the work for them while they get all the glory and have all the fun. It's infantile what they're doing. That they're willing to kill the whole human species so that they can have their day in the sun and have plenty of fun while they're at it. That's it. And it's contemptible. I used to think, I grew up reading, I remember when I was 14, I had a couple of books. One of them was by Einstein. The other one was by Bertrand Russell. You're familiar with Sir Bertrand Russell, Lord Bertrand Russell? He's an English philosopher, okay, analytic philosopher. Okay, his studies of linguistic philosophy were especially useful. And he, very, very intelligent guy. And he was kind of like a hero of mine because he seemed to have this thing about we have a responsibility to society, and we must try to better the world and make the society as good as it can possibly be through rational analysis. So I, figured, seeing this guy, well, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And here he is. He's a big shot. He's in the British aristocracy. He's, got all kinds of he knows the king and the queen, right? He knows all of these big, important people, everybody in academia. Wittgenstein was his, basically a pupil of his, more or less, and other famous people too. Personal friends with Albert Einstein and all this. So I figured, okay, we'll start doing something useful by putting together what Russell was doing with what Einstein is doing here. I did. That's when I started doing what I'm doing, and I figured, this is what needs to be done. Basically, we need somebody who can put this all together into something that is deeply insightful, bridges between science and philosophy, and is useful to society in the sense that Bertrand Russell seemed to be standing for. Okay, so this is what I did. I did everything right, put it together all perfectly, and what you see is what you get. I mean, basically, you're looking at it right now. There are all kinds of people out there who are claiming to have all kinds of answers that they just don't have. And it's ridiculous. They don't have they never got to first base. And yet they're talking loudly and they're getting all this attention while meanwhile I and my work get ignored. So obviously there is something very underhanded going on. These people are pretending. You've got a bunch of people running the world right now who pretend to be big shots and to be the most intelligent people in the world, the ones who have the greatest level of responsibility, and intellectual depth, and morality, enough to call the shots for everybody else, right? And yet they're not paying any attention to what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is absolutely essential. I might as well have been a charter member of their club, okay? But they haven't let me into the club. Still, there's this thing where, we're not going to let you read the contract. You want to be a Freemason? You want to be a Jesuit? Whatever? Okay, you can do that, but you're going to be taking orders. You're going to be taking orders from above, and it's going to be people you don't even know, and maybe you're never even going to see them, but you've got to follow those orders to the letter. Okay? See, this is the deal. Now, a lot of people in the world, Quest, will take that deal. The world is full of people who will take that deal. It's not entirely clear to me that most people wouldn't take that deal these days. Okay, you want to be a big shot, you want to be a big, top science advisor for the CIA or something like that, yeah, they'll go ahead and take that deal, right? I won't. I can't. Okay, I serve absolute truth. I'm doing this thing that I've been doing for a long time. I can't. If you're going to serve truth, you can't then put yourself on the hook to anything that may not agree with you about what the truth is. right? As it turns out, all these people, they're transhumanists and other people who have no insight whatsoever. So it probably would have been a bad move for me to join with them, right? But there's no doubt about it. People say, well, they're Satanists, they're Illuminists, they're evil people. I don't know whether they're Satanists. I do know, however, that they're up to no good in many ways. And so I can't. Everybody's in the club and they're all up to no good, right? They want a world in which there is a parasitic class that gets to live the good life and everybody else is the host. Now they're going to be miserable. They're going to be slaves. They're going to be juiced dry every single day of their lives, just so these parasites can live the good life. You see? That's something that I can't go along with. There have been clubs in the past. There have been people talking about secret societies and so forth, people looking for power that they didn't have, conspiratorial people that are looking, to collude with each other, hunting for talent, because they want to get on top of the heap. There's already a group now that is clearly on top of the heap, and they're not moving over for anybody. So if you're going to be welcomed into the club, it is going to be strictly as their underling. And this is something that I have to be very wary of. Once again, because if you're serving truth, if you're actually, trying to do what I'm doing, you cannot make room for any other obligations along those lines, right? If you're in a corporation, if there's an ideology that corporation subscribes to, usually you'll be expected to go along with it too. I don't have that luxury. I've got CTMU and that's it.